Welcome to the On Stage podcast, where we interview musicians and members of the entertainment community. Welcome, everyone, to another podcast. Today, we have Eric Diamond, and to talk about him. He actually landed his first professional singing job at the age of 15, and he made it to the state finals of the Jimmy Dean Country Showdown twice at age 15. And 16 played in local country bands in Santa Fe, New Mexico area, in the Durango, Colorado area till he was 21. So thank you for this opportunity to interview you, Eric. Can you go back to the beginning and let everyone know who Eric Diamond is and what brought you into the music field? And look, see, I'm wearing a cowboy hat too.
Nice. Well, I started singing at a very young age. Like you said earlier, when I was 15, I made it to the state finals of the Jimmy Dean Country Showdown. Then I made it to the state finals of the Charlie Daniels Country Showdown. I landed my first paying professional job at the age of 15. I worked in weekend bands and Wednesday nights and the occasional Sunday job and weddings and rodeos, special events. Did that till I was in my early 20s. Then I went on the road with my first road band, a band called Cowtown Swing. The band leader was Bobby Francis, who had worked for John Conley during the rose-colored glasses era. And that's kind of where it all began. I was with that band for 5 years. Then I moved to Nashville, sang in every bar on Broadway and Printer's Alley, ended up landing a songwriting deal, which I really wasn't a songwriter. I always considered myself more of a live performer than anything else. Ended up coming back west. I ended up hooking up with a band. The band leader was named David Blanchard. He called me. He said, "Hey, we got 27 nights booked, and our lead singer headed out in the middle of the night. Can you help us out?" And Dave and I had worked together in multiple throw-together bands over the years. So I jumped at the opportunity. 27 nights turned into 3 years. Then I ended up as an in-house entertainer at a large nightclub called Horny's Dance Hall and Saloon in Durango, Colorado. I worked there for 12 months. I put a huge Rolodex of musicians together because all the top traveling road acts were coming through there. And then I put my own band together, Eric Diamond and the Rocky Mountain Playboys. I'm giving you the abridged version, but we had a huge local following, which expanded quite rapidly. And we ended up having 13 national booking agents working in 11 state region. And we traveled and performed for 6 years. With my first album, which was Eric Diamond, They Call Me a Playboy, where we recorded that album at United Artists Tower in Nashville. And then I was 37 years old. I came off the road. My father was dying of cancer. Thought my music career was over. At that time, Nashville would not sign anybody over the age of 35. And really what they wanted and what they were mostly signing was 21 to 26-year-olds. Then 15 years ago, a friend took me to the Bob Wills Day Music Festival. In short order, they found out I was a singer, and that was the beginning of the comeback of my career. 8 years ago, I joined the Western Swing Society of the Southwest because of a Hall of Fame fiddle player named Grady Smith that encouraged me and my steel guitar player to do so. And then things started accelerating. 2 years ago, I won the Western Swing Male Vocalist of the Year by the Academy of Western Artists and had an album finished tied for second for Album of the Year. 8 days later, I had 2 Nashville record labels wanting to sign me, smaller labels. I committed to Clarksville Creative Sound with producer Kurt Ryle, who had produced a lot of artists like Mel Tillis, Gene Watson, Vern Gosdin, Trisha Yearwood, Billy Ray Cyrus, Dean Dillon, etc. Got a new album out, just came out last year on May 13th. We did the world premiere radio release with KSSL Radio out of Lubbock, Texas, which broadcast 8 times in 6 different countries. Then we released it to all worldwide radio on May 15th. The album spent 8 weeks at #1 for Album of the Year on the Indie Express charts. It finished in the Outlaw Front Porch Top 10 for Album of the Year, which got us in People magazine. We were also in the top 10 on 5 additional international country music charts. Nominated for Album of the Year with the IWMA, which is the International Western Music Association. It's up for Album of the Year with the Ameripolitans, and I am also up for Western Swing Male Vocalist of the Year with that organization. We've been nominated for 6 categories with the ISSA, the International Singer-Songwriter Association. We're up for award in 5 categories with the Red Carpet Awards in the Netherlands. And wow. I am getting inducted into the Western Swing Hall of Fame in California this coming October. And 4 days ago, I was notified I received the Legends of West, or not the Legends, the Heroes of Western Swing at the Cowtown Society of Western Swing in Fort Worth, Texas. The event's held in Mineral Wells, Texas, and it's affiliated with Governor Abbott from Texas. He has something to do with it. I don't know much about that. And I'm no longer with Clarksville Creative Sound. I'm in negotiations with and looking over two new radio or 2 new record labels, and that's the story in an abridged version.
That's amazing, Eric. I love to hear stories. I'm sure there's a story about the deer heads on your wall there, unless that's a fake background, but we can talk about that later.
So most people ask me, what did you do most of your life for a living? And I've done a little bit of everything, but when I was young, I was a horse wrangler. I grew up in a community where horses and mules were the #1 industry in southern Colorado, a little community called Vallecito at the base of the Weminuche Wilderness, which is the largest wilderness in the United States other than Alaska. And I was a guide. Most of my life I sang and fished for a living, but I was a guide for 34 years. I guided fishermen. And about the last 15, 17 years, I also guided elk hunters, mule deer hunters, and black bear hunters. And these heads you're seeing on the wall behind me are all animals that I harvested. That's a fraction of what's hanging in my house, but I went 23 years in a row without buying any meat from the grocery store.
It looks like my friend Armando, who's a staunch vegan, isn't going to watch this episode because he won't like to see that. But well, to tell you the truth, and talk about how your dad's dying of cancer. My father also, he passed away from cancer, so it's a terrible thing when that happens. But I'm sorry to hear about that story. I'd like to ask you about, now, when you were 21 years old, to get back to talking about your first road band. It was called Cowtown Swing. What kind of music did you play besides, was it country? What sort of music, what kind of genre would you say?
We did a variety. We did traditional country music. We did mainstream country music at that time, which was the 80s music, basically. And we did Western swing music, which is what I've been doing for the last 15 years. I kind of love it all, but Western swing music is definitely my preference. I feel like it's what I do best, and I absolutely love the music.
Yeah. And but then you moved to Nashville, where you landed a songwriting job. I mean, songwriter, I don't even know how to write a song, but you seem to have described it as a songwriting job. Wasn't that more important to you, to literally be able to write a song all your own?
Actually, it wasn't. I lived with 2 of the very most successful songwriters. I lived with Win Varble and Gerald Smith. And I was actually with them in the very beginning. There was 4 of us living in a low-income apartment in Nashville together. And Gerald, we all had straight jobs except for Win. Win was actually working for a company called Starstruck that Reba McEntire owned. And at that time, he didn't have any cuts with anybody because this was in the very beginning of his songwriting deal. But Wins went on to have a huge successful career writing songs for some of the biggest mainstream country artists. He's made a pile of money. Gerald had success. One of the stories I like to tell, Gerald, we all, like I said, had straight jobs, and Gerald probably had the worst job. He had to be up at 4 a.m. and at work at 5 on the loading docks. And he wrote a song every second, every minute, every hour, every day that went to it was in the top, it went to the top 10. I believe that was Colin Ray recorded that song. Anyhow, I'll never forget when he walked into the living room with a check for $87,000, his first royalty check off that song. 6 months later, he co-wrote What Part of No Don't You Understand, which stayed at #1 for 16 weeks for Lori Morgan. He's gone on to have a huge successful career. I got offered a songwriting deal with Ronnie Stoneman from Hee Haw. I actually kind of fluked into that deal. I had written some songs, but I really didn't consider myself a songwriter, and I really didn't even want to be a songwriter. What I love doing and what I've done for 43 years is live performance. I love interacting with an audience. I love being on stage and performing. That's what I considered myself primarily. Recently, I did write 4 songs with Kurt Ryle, who is a fantastic songwriter that has written some of his accolades. He wrote a #1 hit for George Jones. He's written a lot of songs that went gold and platinum. He and I wrote 3 songs that are on my album that are doing extremely well on radio. A song called Oklahoma Bound, a song called Strike That Match, and a song called Waylon, Willie, Haggard, and Jones. And then we've got a 4th song that we wrote that I couldn't tackle it vocally. It was out of my wheelhouse. But a fantastic singer named Lonnie Bartmus has recorded it. And it's on his newest album.
Yeah. Well, when you mentioned Kurt Rowland, there's another songwriter named Diane Warren. Have you ever heard of her?
I have heard that name. Yes, sir. I don't know her personally at all.
She's another proficient songwriter. She wrote many of hits for Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera. She's been around for almost 40 years, so she's pretty good. It takes a lot to write a song, and I know that I admire anybody who can write a song because I tried. It's just not, you have to go to school for that and be able to do that without getting training and being with 2 guys who actually were songwriters. That's a task. That's accolades to you, my friend. Accolades.
Yeah, one thing I've discovered is I guess there are people that become songwriters and study the craft and learn how to do it. But most of the people I've met that have been extremely successful, they're born songwriters. It just comes to them naturally. Win and Gerald are prime examples. Everything they wrote, because there were 4 of us living together, everything they wrote was just blew me away. I would hear something and I'd be, man, it sounded like something that should be on radio. And that's why they've had extremely successful careers, making hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions by now. They've had extreme success in the songwriting deal. I like dabbling with songwriting. I've lived a lot of experience, especially with country music. I was a horse wrangler. I've done a lot of cowboying and ranching. I rodeoed at one time, although my best event when I rodeoed was the dance. I'm probably the only cowboy to ever get bucked off in the team roping in Golden, Colorado. But that's a true story. But, that's why I enjoyed working with Kurt Ryle as far as songwriting. And I think he felt the same way. He really knew how to put songs together, and I had a lot of experience to draw from. And together we worked extremely well together.
How would you describe your music to someone who has never heard it before?
Well, if you've never heard Western swing, most people have heard Western swing. They don't even realize it's Western swing. They just think it's traditional country music. But Western swing was invented by a gentleman named Bob Wills, who grew up in Turkey, Texas, was born in Turkey, Texas. And in that area, it was all cotton farmers and cattle ranchers for the most part. They would have barn dances every week at someone else's barn. And the music was designed for dancing. And Bob took influences from the blues. He took influences from jazz. Matter of fact, Western swing music is all jazz chords. So it's very intricate. It takes the finest musicians to play this kind of music because it's not simple 3-chord music. It's jazz chords. It's stops, starts, punches, shifts. He also brought in the influence from the Cajun music and from south of the border, mariachi music, and blended it all into this wonderful, incredible dance music. What I tell people that aren't familiar with Western swing, one is go do YouTube and go listen to Asleep at the Wheel. They're kind of the torchbearer for this kind of music at the international level. They've been Grammy Award winners and gold records, etc., and I believe platinum records also. But I tell people, imagine Hank Williams Sr. Colliding with Frank Sinatra or the Glenn Miller Orchestra. So
Wow.
it's the fiddles and the steel guitars with the horn sections and that big swing music.
Well, that's I like that. And you talked about performing. You like performing live and interacting with the fans and the people, which makes you more like a outgoing person, and you more like an extrovert because you like to be there amongst the people. So when you're wanting to be practicing or rehearsing, do you have any unique techniques or routines that you go through before you're out there? Said hello,
I was so lucky that I started at the age of 15, started so young that I don't even think about it. It just comes natural. And I do remember this though. When I was young, I was always worried that I wasn't a good enough singer. I was always concerned that would I be accepted for my work on stage. So I learned how to use humor. I learned how to use crowd interaction to warm audiences up, mainly out of fear for not being adequate enough as a singer. And that started at a very young age. And now it just comes natural to me. I love people for the most part. I love live performance more than anything. Also, something I didn't mention earlier, but I'm a dancer, and I'm probably a 20 times better dancer than I am a singer. That's how I got my foot in the door when I first went to Nashville. Everybody notices you as a dancer. They want to know what your story is. And the same thing happened 15 years ago in Texas. And then they found out I was a singer entertainer from coming up to me because of my dance. So I like to consider myself an entertainer. I do a little bit of all of it.
Wow. Blows my mind. So, Eric, what do you think is the most memorable performance of your career and why?
Well, there's a lot of them, but one of the most memorable, or one that I'm certainly very proud of, was actually this past November at National Hall in Fort Worth. It was a sold out event. There were only 25 tickets left in July, and it's an event that's held on November 19th. And I got to perform with the record label band, which was a hand-picked, basically an all-star band, guys that had all played with the big Nashville Stars and the Grand Ole Opry royalty. So it was a lot of fun. The last 8 years I've been performing with the Western Swing Society and performing with all kinds of Hall of Fame players that worked for people like Ray Price, Hank Thompson, George Strait, Roy
Wow.
Clark, Carl Smith, on and on. One of the gentlemen that he's like a father to me, and someone that I certainly hold in the highest of esteem is Joe Settlemeyer. He's considered the greatest jazz guitar player on planet Earth. He's won every award you can win in the music business, not just the country music business. He's won every award you can win as an instrumentalist in the music business. I don't know how many Hall of Fames he's in, but at least a half dozen, could be double that many. He's done session work for Vince Gill, session work with Ray Price, or with George Strait. He was a Cherokee cowboy for Ray Price, a Brazos River Valley boy for Hank Thompson, a Texas Playboy for Bob Wills. And Joe plays guitar for me at probably 95% of my shows and showcases. I've been blessed to just work with some amazing guys: Sonny Rice, John Jones, Brady Bowen, who played fiddle for George Strait and Hank Thompson. All these guys have incredible resumes. I hate to leave people out, but I've been blessed to work with Greg Gibbs and Chuck Cusimano. The list goes on and on. Rocky King, Kelly Spinks, who's the staff fiddle player on the Penny Gilley show. Everybody's been very kind to me and helpful, and all those things have been a dream come true. My favorite place when I was working the A-room circuit, my top 3 clubs, I loved playing in Laughlin, Nevada. We played, we were the top band in 1999 and in 2000 at the Riverside in Laughlin, Nevada, which was owned by Don Laughlin himself. Those were incredible times and experiences. The same 2 years we were the top band at the Boot Hill, which was a giant nightclub in Rapid City, South Dakota. Also, I loved all the nights I played at Wynn Place and Show in Ruidoso. It was a kind of a well-known roadhouse that's claim to fame was it had live country music 364 days a year. The only day they didn't run live country music was Christmas. In 1999, I played 77 nights there. And in 2000, I played 56 nights there. I've still made a lot of guest performances there over the years, in recent years. But all of it I loved. I loved the camaraderie with my bandmates. I was very thankful that we got to work in 11-state region, and we made friends and fans in all those states, and just to get to an opportunity to see so many different places and meet so many wonderful people. All of it means so much to me.
I take it that the death of Toby Keith kind of hits you hard.
Definitely a sad thing. He was, pretty young, really, and certainly a talented man and a good guy. I've met quite a few stars, and I've worked with a lot of guys. A lot of guys that worked for major stars ended up working for me. People that worked with Neil McCoy, Johnny Rodriguez, Freddie Fender, et cetera, et cetera. And I never had the opportunity to meet Toby, but certainly loved his music. My favorite song of his is that I certainly, the minute I heard it, I really could relate to it, and Should Have Been a Cowboy. Absolutely love that song.
What do you think of Linda Ronstadt? Did you like her music?
Absolutely. I mean, she's one of the most talented of all times. Absolutely.
Yeah. How does it make you feel, Eric, when you're going up there and you start singing? What goes through your mind and your emotion? Does it make you like, would you say that your music has evolved since you first started performing?
Well, okay, multiple answer question. Actually, when I do it, I'm on autopilot, and I'm usually running on pure high octane adrenaline. I don't get nervous, but I certainly am very concerned about coming across and putting on a good performance. When I'm dancing, I have no worries in the world. And occasionally I still land dancing jobs here and there, not enough to call a living. But when I'm doing that, I have no concerns whatsoever. when I'm singing, I'm just wanting to make sure that I do a good job. But I've done it for so long. I'm running on pure adrenaline. What was the second part of your question there? Because I got sidetracked answering the first part of your question.
Yeah, I asked, you think your music has evolved since you first started performing?
Absolutely. I think that's true of all artists. I had a smoother, prettier voice when I was younger, and I actually sang tenor. Now that I'm
Oh,
old, I'm kind of, and I've lived a
nice.
bit of I've lived a pretty rugged life. We won't get into that on this show, but I've dug into and rolled around in a bit of all of it. People nowadays tell me my voice is gravelly, but a lot of them, that's what they tell me they like about it. So, I'll take whatever I can get. I certainly can't hit some of the high notes I could hit when I was younger, but I have a richer voice and certainly a more experienced voice. One thing that I'm kind of proud of and that shocks a lot of people, my buddy Czech Rippey, who played fiddle on the Grand Ole Opry, he always tells me, he's like, Eric, you're like a walking jukebox. But there was a time where I could do 380 songs off the top of my head. And I can certainly still do well over 100. And oftentimes I'll be at these festivals listening to other acts, other performers, and I'll be like, God, I used to sing that song, 25 years ago. And it'll come back. Like I don't remember many important things, but I remember commercial jingles and songs.
I remember the Grand Ole Opry. I also remember Hee Haw with Roy Clark and Junior Samples and Minnie Pearl. Those were the days.
Absolutely. So the lady that I got offered a songwriting deal with was Ronnie Stoneman from Hee Haw. She was the lady that always had curlers in her hair and was whacking her husband with a rolling pin and all that stuff. Yeah, and my mother and father, especially my mother, loved to watch Hee Haw. So I grew up watching that television show, and I still watch the reruns of it every time I get a chance.
Yeah, I like Junior Samples. He was quite a lovely person.
Oh yeah, and Buck Owens, Buck Owens.
Yeah,
One of my
Buck Owens. Yeah, but so you like dancing? Let me guess, is one of those line dancing?
No, sir.
Oh,
I'm gonna tell it to you like we say it out west. Real cowboys don't line dance. I'll guarantee you that. And I always say if I wanted to dance by myself, I'd do it in the shower. No, we do the traditional cowboy dances, which is the two-step, the waltz, and the three-step, and of course jitterbug and swing, which is incorporated into the two-step. And I started dancing at a very young age. I've done a lot of dance competitions. Matter of fact, in just 2 or 3 years ago, I took a second place at the big Legends of Western Swing event in Fort Worth, Texas. But over the years, I danced in a lot of competitions. I still love it, and like I said, every now and then I still get hired for a dancing job. I probably should have gone to Branson at a much younger age and worked as a steady performer as a dancer. But I'm happy to be in the game. Been in it for 43 years, highs and lows. Sometimes you feel like you're on top of the mountain, and sometimes you feel like you're at the bottom of the base. But we're still hanging in there. I'm of an age now where I can't do a whole lot else. No one's gonna hire me to work with horses anymore, and so I'm in this game till the end.
I don't know. Clint Eastwood certainly rode a horse at his age in the movie Unforgiven. I don't know if I've ever seen a 95-year-old ride a horse, but certainly just getting on the horse, you'll break something.
Yeah, I can still ride, but I can't get in the saddle pretty anymore. Like I will not get in the saddle in front of anybody else.
Yeah.
I'll take the horse behind the barn and mount up where no one can see me.
So you're the type of person will put the cart before the horse, literally, I guess.
Yeah, and you just don't when you eat dirt, you just don't bounce back in your 50s like you did in your 20s.
Yeah, I'm kind of disappointed when you mentioned type of dance, but tango wasn't part of that. Cowboys don't tango.
I don't think that was ever the tango was never a part of Western culture or Western
Mm.
music. I know with the popularity in the cities of non-traditional country music, they've created all kinds of cowboy cha-cha and all kinds of line dancing. But we pretty much are traditionalists out west.
It's amazing. I'd like to talk to you about how you handle creative differences, like challenges within your band or your collaborators.
Now, as far as personality conflicts in a band, I've managed several bands over the years, and you know, most of the guys, uh, I was able to get along with. Occasionally, you'll have someone that'll buck the system a little bit, but Louis Bond gave me one of the best compliments ever. Louis was Hoyt Axton's last guitar player before Hoyt died, and Louis was on the road with me 2 different times for multiple years. And he said, Eric, he goes, I'll tell you, he said, not many guys leave a band and come back to a band leader again. He goes, and I've had that happen multiple times with different musicians. He said, that's a sign of good leadership. And because I wasn't, I wanted people that could, absolutely do the music well, but I wasn't, a tyrant or anything. I didn't allow T-shirts on stage. I didn't allow holy jeans, and you had to wear a cowboy hat because we were a cowboy band. I didn't want anybody up there with a filthy Budweiser T-shirt and some tennis shoes or anything like that. But other than dress code, I wasn't much of a stickler. I worked with great professionals all my career, but I'm definitely now and have been for quite some time working with the upper echelon. Everybody I've been playing with for the last 8 years is either in the Western Swing Hall of Fame or the Country Music Hall of Fame or both. So the level of musicianship is, makes my job easy. It's, for me, it's like singing with the record, and everybody has way more talent than I do. But, I've always believed that one of the keys to success is in this business is surround yourself with people who are much more talented than you.
Wow, that's true because it rubs off, right? So that's interesting. I'd like to ask you about your recording process for your latest album, All of Me. How did you put that one together?
Well, we knew we wanted it to be a Western Swing album. Like I said, I've been doing pretty much exclusively Western Swing for the last 15 years. And traditional country still can fit into that mold, certainly does. But this record label that I was with, they were really trying to bring Western Swing back into the forefront. And it is on the rise across the nation, and it's giant overseas. And Western Swing has always come and gone in cycles. And so my timing this is all a godsend for me, winning the Academy of Western Artist Male Vocalist of the Year. All this timing is just, God had his hand in all of this because Western Swing is on the climb big time. And a gentleman named Mike Marcourt just did a 3-year documentary on the history of Western Swing, much like Ken Burns. And it's already won awards around the globe, Paris, London, etc. It will be aired on PBS, RFD TV, the Cowboy Channel. So, my timing's good for all this. One thing that was great was they gave me a lot of artistic freedom. Matter of fact, they gave me almost complete artistic freedom. Now, we wrote 3 songs that I'm super proud of. They are doing extremely well on radio. And that's the song Oklahoma Bound, which it appears that all over the place, all over the United States and around the globe, that song's doing extremely well. And of course, they love it in Oklahoma. And then we wrote a song called Strike That Match. And one thing that's great about this song is the younger generation really likes this song. And that's good because we want to bridge the gap and we want to introduce younger people to this style of music as well. And then we wrote a song, Waylon Willie Haggard and Jones, which basically pays a tribute to, you know, four of the all-time greatest. And it is not a Western swing song. It's definitely a traditional country waltz. And we used, in the verses, we used song titles from all those artists, plus we threw Ernest Tubb in there to create verses that made sense and made a story. So it's very clever, and it came to well. And people that aren't huge fans of Western swing, but that are diehard country music people, absolutely love this song, and it's done well for us. So I'm glad that we really were able to cover all the bases with those songs. And but the album itself, you know, I wanted to record songs that I love, and All of Me, the title track, is a song that I've loved forever. You know, Willie Nelson's recorded that, Frank Sinatra's recorded that, Dean Martin. The list goes on and on. It's just a great jazz standard, and it's been done as Western swing. We've performed that in our live shows for about 3 years now, so I definitely wanted to record that. Another song that was written by Cindy Walker, who's one of the greatest all-time songwriters from Mejia, Texas, that wrote a lot of big hits for Bob Wills and others. I Can't Give You Anything But Love. That's probably, right now, that's probably my favorite song to perform live, because we do a heck of a job of that, and I love it. We threw, you know, the biggest Western swing standard of all time, San Antonio Rose. I wanted to put, Kurt said, what do you think the album needs? And this was towards the latter part of the album coming together. I said, you know, we need one big recognizable standard. And I said, there's nothing bigger than San Antonio Rose. I mean, that's the song that Bob Wills says took him off hamburger and put him on steak. So we recorded that. Another song that I discovered, a friend of mine during the COVID lockdown was like, Eric, you got to listen to this song. It really fits you. I think you do it well. And it's called Bring Me Sunshine. And Willie Nelson, I'd never heard of it. Willie Nelson had a version of it. I don't know that it got a lot of attention. And then through doing some digging, I discovered Brenda Lee had a version of it.
Wow.
And so did a rockabilly band out of the UK that's had a very successful career. And I loved all three versions, but we chose the tempo that was kind of in between the rockabilly and in between Willie Nelson's, which was the slowest version. And boy, that's done really well. If you get a chance to listen to the album, I'm really proud of that song called Bring Me Sunshine. And we performed it live. It was our opening number at National Hall on November 19th, there in Fort Worth, Texas. And the audience absolutely went nuts and loved that song. So it was great. And then one of the last minute decisions, we actually had to do a song change last minute, and we recorded Let's Chase Each Other Around the Room Tonight, which was obviously an old, big, successful hit for Merle Haggard. Wow. I was happy to do that song, and the entire album's great. It's the most played Western swing album on radio in the world currently. It's up for 2 Ameripolitan Awards, 6 ISSA awards, 5 Red Carpet Awards, an IWMA award. I tell people this album's so good it comes with a money-back guarantee. And so did the first album. We sold over 13,000 units of the first album, and that's not available in stores. That's out of the back seat of a pickup truck. We sold that many, and wow. The new album's selling at a much faster rate. I've sold over $10,000 worth, and I just got my hands on them in May 13th, so it hadn't even been a year yet. But we're available on all music platforms worldwide. I encourage people to go to YouTube, type in Eric Diamond, All of Me. It'll take you to both albums. The All of Me album is a 12-song album. The Eric Diamond, They Call Me a Playboy, is a 10-song album. Everybody that played on the album had played with huge stars, Nashville royalty, Grand Ole Opry people. The producers were both top-notch. Give it a listen. And if you're interested in purchasing it, like I said, you can buy it, download, or get a hold of me on Facebook. Send me a messenger message, follow me on Facebook. Get a hold of me. We'll get an album in the mail to you. Get a CD. We have CDs available, and we have thumb drives, double album thumb drives available as well.
Right, everyone. You heard what Eric Diamond said. Go and purchase the album, and also everything will be linked down below in the YouTube description so that you will be able to contact Eric Diamond. You'll be able to get his music, and we're going to make sure of that. Now, you mentioned Brenda Lee's name for Bring Me Sunshine. How old was she when she wrote that? Because I just found out recently that Rocking Around the Christmas Tree, she wrote and sang when she was 13 years old. Did you realize she was 13?
On that I did, but here's the thing. I am not certain she wrote that song. She may very well have. I just don't know that to be fact. So I want to be clear with people on that. But she did record it. I loved her recording of it. Matter of fact, it was probably my favorite of the three. And it was certainly much earlier in her career. As to what age she was, it would strictly be guesswork for me. But it was certainly earlier in her career. And I was so glad she got recently inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame. Very well deserved. And in my opinion, it should have happened 10 years earlier, at least. But yeah, I'm glad she's there now. Absolutely.
Yeah, I heard her actually at Christmas time. She sang a recent version of Rocking Around the Christmas Tree. And you know what? If you close your eyes, you don't even hear much. It's almost exact same. It's like, she hasn't changed her voice. But
no, she's incredible.
Eric,
incredible.
All these accolades and all this work and songs and All of Me and working with Mr. Ryle and all. How do you deal with your mental health? Because at some point you're just going to go like, no,
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. The night before last, I was on the phone with two radio station owners, one in England and one in New Zealand, and they had me on the phone till 4:30 a.m. Wow. Then I had to get up and have a full working day. Well, I get more rest when I'm driving to events or when I'm at festivals performing. When I'm at home, I'm 16 hours a day. I'm dealing with radio stations. I'm dealing with disc jockeys. I'm dealing with promoters. I'm dealing with record label people. I'm kissing babies and shaking hands on the internet. And I hold up pretty good. Even the former record label, they announced me to the public multiple times on the internet and on stage as the hardest working man in country music. But I tell people I'm not the hardest working man in country music. I'm the most desperate. And I'm driven by fear. I don't want to end up in a cardboard box under a bridge dumpster diving for my dinner. And that's why I work the way I do. And I don't know that there's anybody in the business that will outwork me. I'll promise you that.
Yeah, I heard many musicians, they're found in really odd places. And like, Elvis Presley and others are just, yeah. But talking about your mental health and what you do, and you get the most rest while you're on your way. And I'm thinking, like, how do you balance your professional life with your personal life? How do you do it?
Well, honestly, luckily I'm able to sleep most of the time. This morning I had to get up at 5 a.m. to do a radio interview out of Louisiana. And there's a time change because I'm on mountain time. So I had to be up at 5. And so that anytime I know those early morning things, it really gets me out of whack. But as far as personal life and professional life, honestly, I don't have a personal life right now and haven't for the last 3 years. It's all one and the same. Everything revolves around music, and I'm fine with that. I mean, this is what I chose to do a long time ago. I've watched a lot of guys and friends fall by the wayside. Guys with far more talent than me hung it up after X amount of years. Some of them were in the game for a handful of years. Some of them were in it for decades. But I don't know what else I would do. I love what I do. And, I'm just hoping and praying I can make enough of a living to do this until it's all over. So if that answers your question, yeah, it's my to try to really do it, man, you don't have a personal life. It's all business. It's all taking care of business.
Wow. Eric, wasn't there a time that you just wanted to give it up? Like, just, you know what? That's it. I had it. Or I guess, okay, I don't want to give you the second question just yet. So what's
Well,
the...
I don't think I ever wanted to give it up. And unfortunately, in the last 13 months, I've seen a lot of the ugly side of the music business. I've seen misleading. I've seen intentional lies. I've dealt with deceit and possibly even criminal wrongdoings. But
That's terrible.
that's real disappointment. And it was a heartbreaker. But I'm changing record labels. I've got 2 labels right now that are, we're in the negotiations or in the works. I've got to look over contracts. I just want to, I don't have visions of grandeur. I'm not trying to be the next Garth Brooks. I know my age. I know my abilities. I know how the business works. I just want to be put to work. I just want to be working and doing what I do. Put me on stage. Let me perform. Let me make you money. So if there's any tour promoters out there watching this show, help me help you. I'll put money in your pocket. Put me to work.
I like this guy. Really honest. Yes, definitely. We should be listening to your music more often, and people should be following you as well. That's amazing. So I know you said you like to perform live and engage with your fans, but how do you do that with your fans online?
Well, I try to be nice. I try to be kind to everyone. I'm kind of known as a bit of a mess as far as a comedian. So I'm online. I do a lot of humor on Facebook. I do a lot of humor. If it's a situation that requires a serious answer, then I try to do that, conduct myself in a serious manner. But the rest of the time, I'm just a big clown. I'm just trying to make people laugh, which is all part of entertaining. And since they're not in an audience or they're not in the same room with me, they may be somewhere across the ocean. I try to entertain on social media through humor primarily.
Would you do that also in live performance as well?
Yeah, I throw some jokes in throughout the course of the show, and I've learned some tricks. Over the years, I studied a lot of other performers, mainly guys I watched live, and I would take something out of their bag of tricks. If I saw something I really liked, I was like, and there's some things I've used and hung on to for 30 years, just little things that are icebreakers or things that make the audience respond, which makes them grow more attached to you, and you stick in their mind rather than just getting up there and being stone-faced and singing. I like to work this. I love when I'm on a stage where I can actually move because Western swing music is hard to sit still to, I guarantee you. And I like to be all over the stage. I've got some funny things that I do throughout the course of the show. And I'm trying to constantly learn from other performers. And I'm also constantly trying to develop things in my mind that I go, oh, that would be funny to do this. And then I try it out at a live performance, things like that.
Wow. So what would you say, Eric, then? Because you said you've seen the ugly side of the music industry and lies, and you're actually describing Boss Hogg, by the way. Dukes of Hazzard is like one of the best. But so what was the biggest challenge you faced in your music career? How did you overcome it?
Well, I guess one of the biggest things I'm overcoming right now, and that's I feel like I was intentionally misled. I felt like I was lied to multiple times. And I'm not the only artist that felt that way. 8 or 9 other artists that were working, we were all working together, have left the situation that we were in. I don't want to name any names. But now, I've overcome it by I'm talking to new record labels. I'm actually they reached out to me, and I just hope that everything's on. I want to work with honest people. I've had enough of working with dishonest people in the last 13 months. So I very much look forward to working with honest people. Other than that, you know, I mean, in this game, you're going to take, you know, I help a lot of young artists. A lot of young artists come to me, and I'll help anyone that wants help. And I'll be as honest as they want me to be. And I let them know that up front. If you want me to be brutally honest with you, I will. And if you just want a pat on the back and you know, I'll do that too. But you won't get anywhere that if you're not going to get anywhere if you're not going to allow people to be honest and help you in that way. But it's a tough business, you know. It's going to break your heart at times, but it's also at times it's going to give you the highest high you've ever had in your life. There are those moments that are better than anything you can imagine, better than any drug could ever do for anyone, or better than any amount of money or any. So those are the moments I live for, is those highs through the music, those moments where you and your bandmate are there in that special place with an audience. And it's just, you can't, those things are, you know, that's what I'm driven by. It's that's what keeps me going. You know, it's a tough game. Anybody that's ever been in this business for any length of time will tell you that. You're going to take some bumps and bruises. You're going to have some heartache. But you talk to anybody who ever had big success in this game, and they went through a lot and they kept going. It's all about being persistent and never saying die.
Knowing how you mentioned how busy you are and getting up at 5 a.m. and said, I know a perfect theme song for you.
Okay.
On the road again. Because basically
yeah.
how you do. Just on the road all the time.
Yeah. Well, I used to be on the road all the time, and I want to be back on the road all the time. I'm on the road quite a bit, but I'm, you know, it's not like when I was doing playing the A-room circuit and on the road for 11 years. We're trying to get back to that, and I stay busy all the time, but I want to be going show to show, state to state. I love living out of a suitcase. I love doing this, and a lot of artists don't. They want to be at home or they get burnt out. So I'm the ideal guy for a label or for a promoter. Work me to death. Work me like a pack mule, because I'll go. I'll play as many shows in the course of the year as you want me to, guaranteed.
That's interesting. Yeah, a lot of people like to be on the road. Others just like to stay at home and create music on the computer. How do you see the future of the music industry, especially with changes in technology and how people consume music, like AI, for instance? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, let me explain something to you first. 3 or 4 years ago, I thought Wi-Fi was an Oriental dessert. I'm probably the most non-technological guy you've ever met. I bet I'm the most lacking in technology of anybody in the music industry. 25 years ago, my friends were trying to get me to do this, and I thought, no, I don't need this. You know, I've lived my life just fine without it. 15 years ago, my wife was trying to get me to do this. I'm like, no, and then even 8 years, the last 8 years, meet people in the music business, Eric, you got to do this. Still, I'm like, hey, I'm 50 years old. I've lived my whole life happily without this. I don't need it. But when I got nominated for those 2 big national awards, a very close friend of mine came over to the house, lifelong buddy, and he said, Eric, you're doing this. I'm setting it up for you. And I'm glad he did, because, you know, it's helped me sell a lot of album records, CDs, whatever. It's helped me build fan base. It's gotten me exposure around the world. So I get it. But seriously, this is non-technology. I mean, the day I learned how to text message, I jumped in my pickup truck. I drove down to the county courthouse. I ran up the steps and did the Rocky dance. So, so you're talking to a guy that doesn't know anything about Wi-Fi, hi-fi, Roku, Spotify. None of that means anything to me. That's why I've got a great manager, Caden Gordon, most honest guy in the music business. That guy has changed my life. I love him like a son, and he's the only one that I know that rivals me as far as number of hours a day spent working, 7 days a week. So we really hit it off and have a fantastic working relationship. But the business has changed because I've been in it long enough to see it over more than 4 decades now. You know, good and bad, you know, the changes in some ways. But you know, for me, Western Swing's on the climb. Western Swing will always be. It has always come and gone in cycles. Right now, it is climbing to the peak. You've got people like Jody Nix, Jason Roberts, and the Texas Playboys, who's the head of all Western Swing. You've got Rocky King. You've got, you know, Jake Hooker and Tommy Hooker and Chuck Cusmano and Greg Gibbs and Kelly Spinks and Billy Mata. I don't want to leave anybody out. And the best of the best, I mean, there's great guys in multiple places, but Texas is the Mecca. It's where the best of the best are. It's where Western Swing was born. It was also severely nurtured in Oklahoma, and it's also giant there. But it's big throughout the whole West: New Mexico, Montana, Wyoming, South Dakota, North Dakota. You know, and its popularity. I mean, New York, California, the Upper West Coast. So you know, I'm going to keep doing Western Swing till they bury me, and we'll see what happens as far as changes in the business. But people still love this music. People still dance to this music. People show up in droves. 2 years ago at the Bob Wills Festival in Türkiye, Texas. It's a town where less than 500 people live there. During that festival, 50,000 people converged upon that town. If you've never been to Bob Wills Days in Türkiye, Texas, it is the greatest Western Swing and country music festival of all time. You need to go. And the vibe is like a huge family picnic. Everybody's nice. If you like attractive cowgirls, there's a plethora of them. It's a good time, I guarantee you.
Well, here's a shout out to Caden Gordon. Thank you for setting up this interview with Eric Diamond. And also, just can you please, like, I just released his episode. I had Caden Gordon on my program. It's his birthday today.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Caden. Happy birthday to you. You talk about a guy. I mean, I hate to even tell people because I don't want him to get so popular I can't have him. But I've told many artists, this guy, he is Abe Lincoln honest. He's the most honest person I've worked with. And after what I just went through, what a breath of fresh air. And he gets results. He makes things happen like that, you know. My last radio promoter in 2.5, 3 years didn't get me a single interview, a single podcast, a single television show, or a magazine. Caden got me 5 podcasts, 4 television shows, 3 interviews, and a magazine in 1 week.
You see, that's why we like him. He's great.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
He's been bringing a lot of his artists over to me, and I really appreciate that. I wish I could do more for him. So, Eric, what advice would you give to aspiring musicians looking to break into the music scene?
Chase your dreams, follow your heart, work extremely hard, and be prepared for the ups and downs. I deal with a lot of young artists. Matter of fact, there was a very talented girl singer that I met a year ago, February, in Nashville. Much better singer than I am, much better. And she told me, and I hear this a lot. I want this more than anything in the world. I want this. But then when I don't see the effort there. When I look at her social media, it's 95% grab ass, 5% music. If you look at my social media, it's 100% music. When I see artists that are doing that, then I know they're serious. Because talk is cheap. But when I see you doing the do, then I know you're serious. And if you're going to be in this game, you better be serious. Because if you're not, there are thousands that want this that are going to be serious. So if you're going to set yourself apart, you got to do it through your approach and your work ethic. No question about it. And Chris, I really appreciate you. I really enjoyed your show doing it. Man, you're top notch, man. You run a professional deal, and I just want to thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Eric. You make comments like that make me want to go on. But one thing I want to ask you, how do you yourself deal with criticism, both constructive and negative, in your career?
You know, on the inside, I wear, I want to please everyone, and you can't please everyone, but that's just the way I'm wired. But, I just use it as a motivational thing. I just keep working hard. I try to do my best. And fortunately, the audiences tend to seem to like me. Even the record labels got a taste of that at live performances. They saw how the audience responded. People have been kind to me. People have embraced my music. People have been loving and embracing to me. And I'm not going to let them down. I'm going to try to put my best foot forward every time.
I love that. You got a strong attitude, passion for music. You love country. You love, so everything is so good about you. However, if you could collaborate with any artist, like one you've never collaborated with, who would that be?
Oh, if I could work with anybody doing some music project, it's the guy that's second only to God in the state of Texas, and that would be George Strait.
Wow. And what is it about him that you like so much that you would want to duet with him or collaborate with him, and not someone like Luke Bryan?
Well, you could talk to Luke Bryan or grab the top 50 artists, and everybody will tell you the king is George Strait. I mean, there's others I'd love to collaborate with. There's guys that are dead and gone now that I would love to have done some. Bob Wills himself, Marty Robbins, Ray Price, Farron Young. But George Strait, he set the bar. I mean, there would be no Garth Brooks if it weren't for George Strait. Garth himself would tell you that. George set the bar for everybody, and he's all of our heroes.
Who's your biggest, I don't want to say cheerleader, but who's the biggest person in your life who encourages you to move on?
I get it from a lot of people. Vic Butler's a guy from Kansas. We didn't know each other. And quite a few years ago now, I was singing at a big coliseum in Snyder, Texas. And I got off stage and walked to the back of the coliseum, and this gentleman came up to me and he said, "Hey, was that you on stage singing Sioux City Sue?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Man, you hardly ever hear that song anymore." He goes, "You're great. We're great." And we started this friendship. Well, I told him about this album that I'd done a long time ago at United Arts Tower. And he's the one that reproduced the album and got this whole thing started. I mean, how this all happened, this comeback, was crazy. He had printed up a bunch of these CDs. And I thought, yeah, I'll sell them at little shows and, to make a few extra bucks. Then the COVID hit, and I was actually doing very badly. I actually thought I was going to be dead in 3 to 6 months. And so I started sending this album out to all these Hall of Fame players that I'd been working with the last 8 years, because I wanted people to see that I had done a legitimate project at one time in my life. And I sent it out to old bandmates and people that were involved with the Western Swing world. And a lady from New York named Maria Parisi, who was on the Cowtown, the board for the Cowtown Society of Western Swing, she contacted me. She didn't know I was a singer. She knew me as a dancer. And she said, she found out I had this album, and she said, "Eric, would you like me to get you on some radio stations?" And I hadn't been on radio since the 90s. And I thought, man, that'd be great, But I honestly didn't think I was going to be on this earth much longer. So she got me on like 17 or 19 radio stations. It wasn't a lot. Next thing that happened, I get a phone call from a disc jockey named H.D. Ainsworth, who was CMA Disc Jockey of the Year twice at the time. He's won it 3 times now. And he said, Eric, he didn't know me. I didn't know him. Now we've spent time together quite a bit in person in multiple different states. But he said, hey, a lady heard you on the radio this morning. She wants to help you. He goes, I know her personally and she can. So I thought, what the heck? I called this lady up. She got me on 550 radio stations. Then it just snowballed. Then I won I won the big award. And then it just kept building. And now I've got, quite a few people working on radio promotion, social media promotion. Caden Gordon is making things happen left and right. And the whole thing just snowballed. And so anyhow, I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, I'm for Caden. I mean, what he says always happens. So I really appreciate that he's helping you and others out. And so you're always talking about Western swing, talking about country. You ever thought of countryinizing or Western swing a song by any American artist like Imagine Dragons, or doing like a swing version of a Britney Spears song? You ever thought of doing that?
Well, no offense to anyone, I couldn't tell you a Britney Spears song if it hit me in the face. I don't know. She's attractive, I know that, but I've never listened to a bit of her music. But yeah, I mean, there's people I'd love to clap. I mean, obviously, Ray Benson's getting up there in years. Ray's one of my heroes. He's the band leader and the founding father of Asleep at the Wheel. I'd love to do something with Jason Roberts. Jason's a friend of mine. He's one of my heroes. He's one of my favorite singers.
Amazing.
Jody Nix is someone that we all hold in high esteem. Billy Mott is a friend of mine. I love all them guys, man. I'd love to do something with any of them. Right now, there's an award-winning artist from Australia named Vanessa Bourne. Boy, is she talented. And we had a conversation just the other night, and we may do a duet together. So, I'll collaborate with anybody. I'd love to do anything, And we won't get into it on today's show, but I write a lot of funny stuff. I write a lot of funny songs. I write parodies. I've got the best cowboy rap you've ever heard. So, I do that stuff for fun. And I don't do it at my regular shows, but a lot of people know my funny stuff and my parodies that I write. And when the situation's right, I break out a lot of those funny songs and stuff like that as well. So
you brought it to life again, a story I want to talk to you about, a Canadian country singer by the name of Dave Carroll. And he actually it's Dave Carroll and the Sons of Maxwell is the name of the group. And he brought his guitar on a United Airlines and they busted it. So he wrote a song called United Breaks Guitars. So you're talking about funny songs like that?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I write parodies too. Like I wrote a song and this stuff, I don't know what it is. It just comes to me. But I wrote a song called Staying Inside, and it's about coronavirus. But it's a parody to the Bee Gees song "Staying Alive."
Oh yeah, awesome!
You want me to lay a little bit of it on you?
Yes, please. Free music. Go ahead.
Well, you can tell by the way I wear my mask, I'm a Corona man, and I'm on task. Wash my hands 30 times a day. You know that I got bills that I just can't pay, and it's not all right. It's not okay. You can't look the other way. Coronavirus is everywhere. They say that shit travels through the air. Out of toilet paper, thank God that I don't vapor. I'm staying inside, staying inside. Now my tummy's aching and I just ran out of bacon and I'm staying inside, staying inside. There's a touch. But I do all kinds of crazy stuff like that as well.
I love it. That's amazing, my friend. Wow. Then you should take on the road again and make a parody of that. Call it, you're living in a house and a whole groundswell of frogs in your bedroom, and you call it "There's Toads Again." There's toads.
Or you could have "On Commode Again."
That's funny. Wow, I really enjoyed this.
I love traditional country music, and I absolutely love Western swing. But I do like writing funny songs as well, you know. And I do like jokes and, you know, humor and just entertaining in general. It all goes well together.
You think you could have made it as just a lonely old comedian in a, let's say you could be, instead of being the floor manager, an in-house entertainer at Horny's dance hall, you could be like the comedian.
Well, it's always been part of my shtick. And many times got musician friends of mine and stuff, you know, we'll sit around and I'll get on a roll and start, you know, telling jokes and one-liners, and they'll be like, man, you should have been a comedian. So, but you know, whatever, it's all been part of the shtick. And like I told you before, in the early days, it was, I had this fear of failure. I did not want to fail. And so I learned to be funny. I learned how to be quick and work off the top of my head. And so, you know, 43 years in development, it all blends into just Eric Diamond, the singer entertainer. Yep.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you enjoy it, do it. Keep doing it until, even if you're lying there in the coffin, just keep singing. People will be at your funeral and be like, it's like this guy. He's I don't know if you know about Irish humor, but what he did is on his funeral, he had someone put like a recording of his voice at the bottom of the coffin that went, "Get me out of here! It's dark in here." Because he was always a funny guy, and it's like, don't mourn for me, just get me out of this coffin. It's dark. It was kind of funny.
Absolutely.
So you'd be the type of person to do that, probably.
Well, I always say that I know there's Western swing in heaven, because I know God loves Western swing, and all the bands are at least 10 pieces.
I think all music is from God, and I really believe that there's not one genre kicked out of heaven than another, because well, maybe rap music. I'm not a fan of rap, but I do like some of the stuff if you do it right.
Absolutely. No, I'm just saying. I was just, you know, saying.
I really enjoyed it.
If you're not familiar with Western swing, get familiar with it. It's addictive, guaranteed, and you can't sit still to it. Your foot will be tapping, your head will be bopping.
Well, I'm going to make sure that there's a listing on your Spotify for All of Me. And everyone, follow him on Facebook. Listen to All of Me and all his other music. Okay, everyone, we're going to end this stream with Eric Diamond. Thank you for tuning in.
Let me